Hello there, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to repot my Monstera. Now it's been in here for a few years, and in that time it's kind of outgrown its moss pole. It's already taller than it, it's straggly and it's falling about all over the place. Now it would probably be alright in this pot, to be honest with you. There's even a good few inches at the top where I could actually top up some compost, but the issue is I want to put on a taller moss pole for it because I want it to grow up nice and high, and with a taller moss pole it's going to dwarf that pot a little bit and potentially be a bit unstable and a bit top heavy. So I bought a bigger pot and a bigger moss pole for it. So the bigger pot, this is plastic, and the new pot is ceramic, so there's a bit more weight to it and hopefully it'll be a bit more stable. So yeah, it's a bit of a long-term thing. It probably would have been okay, but once I get it in the bigger pot with the bigger pole, it's going to be fine for a good few years, I think. So that's where I'm thinking with it. Now we're in sort of mid-autumn here in the UK, which is not the best time to be repotting things, but you know, I'm on the drag with things this year, and I should have done this in the summer and I haven't. But I'm not going to be pruning any roots here. I'm going to be very careful with the roots not to disturb it too much. And in this room is where it's going to be kept. And it's the brightest room in my house. It gets a lot of sun through here. It actually is a pretty warm room as well. So I expect this plant to actually carry on actively growing for quite a few months actually. So I think it's got time to recover and stabilize its growth in the next few months anyway. So I'm not too concerned about that in this case, but ideally speaking, you want to be repotting things in the early growing season ideally, just to give it a chance to fully recover before you go into the more dormant time. Now some of you may remember me doing a video a while back on this particular Monstera about the leaves not splitting, and I explained in that video the reason why is that it was kept downstairs in a sort of less sunnier spot, and it is the brighter sun which encourages the leaves to split, or fenestrate is the correct term. And as you can see, it's been up here for a few months now, and these latest leaves are almost completely fenestrating. So it has done the trick actually. So if you do have a Monstera and the leaves look more like this with just like 1 or 2 splits in it, and you want to have the better look for it with all the splits in the leaves, then more light is the prescription for that. So let's get on with the repot then. Hopefully I'm not going to make too much of a mess. I'm probably going to make a mess. Never mind, let's go. So I've got like a tray here just to try and catch some of the soil and whatnot, but probably not going to catch everything. You stay there for now, please. Right, that's it. This is the new pot. As you can see, quite a bit more space for it to grow into. It's much heavier. And then we have the pole, which is a lot taller and a lot bigger. So that should do nicely. This is just some generic garden compost. This is a peat-free variety. And as usual, I've got some perlite. So I always like to try and put some perlite in my plant soil mixes. It helps with drainage, so things don't get too boggy, but it also helps retain a little bit of moisture as well in the soil. So it's just generally beneficial for the plant. What I'm going to use to attach it to the new moss pole, well, this is not really a moss pole. This looks like a coir that's been wrapped around a pole, but that's fine as long as it has something to cling onto and grow up. That's the main thing. So yep, I'm going to use, I just happen to have some old bonsai wire that I've taken off one of my bonsai, so I'm going to use that. It's nice and thick, but I can sort of fold it around where I need to. You can use whatever you've got. You can actually get some thick green plant wire, which helps protect the plant because you don't want it to dig in. I've used some quite thin wire last time and it looks like it's starting to dig in a little bit, so you want to try and avoid that. So thicker wire is better if you're going to use wire. You can use like garden twine or string, but again, you don't want it to dig in, and if you want to hold it firmly, then you do need something that's thick enough to hold it without damaging the stem. So just have a think about that when you're doing it for yourself. Right, so let's get this out the way to begin with. I'm just going to try and get this out of the pot, see how we get on. I've got it's the old wire I'm going to remove. There we go. And let's see how this comes out. There we go, there's the old moss pole. There she goes. Just going to try and slowly coax it out. There we go. Like I said, I don't want to disturb the roots too much here, so I'm just going to leave it in the root ball. Yep, the roots look fine. Now I'm going to just put some soil in the bottom of the pot to begin with, so it has a base. It's going to sit much higher up in this pot, obviously. Anyway, how have you been recently? Hope you're doing well. Let me know how your plants are getting on. If you've got any questions about anything, do let me know in the comments. And if I can, maybe I'll make a video for you to explain something if I can help. Right, so we've got a nice base of potting compost in there now. I'm just going to add some perlite. Need to get some more of this, actually, I'm running out. Just going to mix that round so it's evenly distributed in the soil. I like about 50-50 in terms of a mix. Now let's just offer this up and see how it looks. Obviously we need to leave room for the pole as well. Now I'm just going to open up the root ball a little bit, but I don't really want to disturb the roots too much, so just loosening it a bit. Now it is a bit dry at the moment, but I've done that deliberately because I didn't want to make a mess. How's that going for you, Andy? Yeah, that's not too bad actually, because it leaves plenty of room on top as well for the roots to grow. So that's okay. The roots are coming up to about here, so that leaves a good bit of room. You always want to leave at least an inch or, I don't know, 20 odd centimeters at the top, just so you can water it. And actually, if you've watched any of my past videos, I always recommend you don't plant them directly in a pot, that you put, this is your outer decorative pot, and you would put a nursery pot within this. That way you can take it out for watering, put it in the bath or something and water it like that. Or at least the water can drain through into the outer pot, which is a much better way of watering it. But I don't have an outer pot, an inner pot, the appropriate size for this. And actually it's done okay in that pot over the last couple of years. So I'm going to leave it in here for now. And if it's struggling, I'll have to change that plan later on. But ideally, it's always better to have an inner and an outer pot. That way you can really give it lots of water, and then whatever it doesn't need, it will just drain through. And then you can leave it for a bit to soak back up into the plant if it needs it. And then every now and again, just take the plant pot out and drain away excess water. When you have it directly in the pot like this, you can't overwater it because there's nowhere for the water to go. and it will just sit in the bottom, and eventually the roots will rot. That's bad news. So you have to be a little bit more experienced and know approximately how much water the plant's going to need, and then when it needs water again. So you have to have a bit more of a feel for what the plant needs, because you can't overwater it. Anyway, let's get on with this. So I'm just adjusting the roots carefully. So I don't want to disturb them too much. Place them nicely around the pot. I'm also mindful where I'm going to put the moss pole, because I want it behind. It was behind before, and I want it behind again. So I need to leave enough room for it. I'm just going to move the root ball forward a little bit. There we go. It's just a little bit forward of central in the pot. So we've got enough room for the root ball to go in. And I'm going to try and put it in the, can you see me still? I'm going to try and put it in the same place as the last one was, because there is a bit of a gap in the roots here, which is ideal for the pole to go into. Now, let's see how we get on with this. Yep. I think that looks about right. Okay, I'm just going to let that go down there for a minute. I need to backfill this pole to give it a bit more stability. And try not to get it everywhere. Two hopes of that. Yeah, it's already standing up on its own. Excellent. So I'm just firming down around the pole as much as I can, really firming in the soil to create that firm base. Not around the roots, but around the pole. Just take your time with this and enjoy it. It's quite good fun spending time with your plants. A little bit of a Zen activity. Quite calming, I find. There, that's probably enough soil for now. So let's see if we can hoist this back up and start attaching it somewhere nicely. So that's leaning forward a bit, so should have brought a spirit level with me, shouldn't I? That's better. Now, let's see what we can do with this. So let's get the bottom two anchored in, I think. Try and untangle the leaves a bit so we can sort out the roots carefully. There we go. Be handy if this went this side. There we go. So the first one can sit there and anchor it at the bottom quite nicely. And this one might go around the back as well, actually. See if we can make that work. Just naturally grip it then. That's better. Now we're getting somewhere. I think that can sit there. They'll find their own way. But yeah, I think that'll work. It just takes a bit of time to find the natural placing of things where they naturally want to sit, but also how it will look good for you and in your room. But try not to pull it around too much or else you're going to snap a stem or a aerial root or something. So just take your time and find where it wants to naturally sit. So now I've got some wire here. See if we can anchor these at the bottom where it's at its strongest point. We'll give it a good solid foundation then. I think I'll be able to get them both in the same wrap of wire because they're both touching the pole about the same place. Now, I don't want to strangle it, but I do want it fairly firm at the bottom here because it will create a nice firm structure for the whole plant. And also the pole is at its firmest at the base here where it goes into the pot. So it's not cutting in, but it's pretty firm. It's attaching it to the pole quite firmly here. You can always loosen it off later if you need to, but that's where you want it. I might lock it in like that. That certainly will hold it nicely there. I like that one. And then I might just pull that one in a bit higher up. The other thing that's helpful with this, as you're twisting the wire behind it, you're always going to get a little tag end of wire. If you can finish it up so it's pointing down, you can actually stick it into the back of the moss pole or your coir pole, and that'll help anchor it holding up where it is rather than having it slide down the pole. So that's a good little tip for you to make things a bit easier. Yeah, I think that's going to work. It is leaning forward a little bit, but that's because all the weight is forward. It's going to go in the corner, so it won't really matter, but that's where I want all the plants anyway, all the leaves, so that's okay. I'm going to do one more, I think. See, once you get it where you want it, be mindful of the leaves, but they'll move around themselves anyway, so it won't be exactly where you put it. They'll find their own way. But make sure they're not stuck or cut off somewhere. I'm going to put one more there, and I think that'll be fine at that point. That's going to hold it nicely where we want it. Right, I haven't stepped back and had a look at it yet. Hopefully it won't look too bad. That's another good tip. Stand back and have a look occasionally. Make sure it doesn't look too funny from one angle or another. Yeah, I'm pretty... God, my knees. I'm getting old. I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Yeah, that's straightened up enough now. It's pretty straight, actually. Yeah, that's pretty much bang on where I want it. No, that's all gone pretty well, and I haven't made a complete mess of my upstairs cinema room anyway. Right, let's get this back in the corner, and we'll call that a good job well done. So there we have it. I think it looks good in the corner there, and as you can see, it's got plenty of moss pole to grow up, and I think it's going to look really good. It's got plenty of light coming in from the window to the left of this picture. And in the evening when the lamp's on, it looks amazing with the light reflecting through the leaves and generally having a bit of a jungly theme in the corner there. Just looks really good. So I'm happy with that. All right guys, that is my Monstera repot. I hope you found it useful, interesting, entertaining, or something like that. Please give it a thumbs up if you have. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you again very soon on another video. Bye for now.